You know, we all make promises every single day. I'll call you later. Oh, yeah, I'll be there for sure. But have you ever stopped to wonder what makes some promises so powerful that the law itself will actually step in and enforce them? Well, that's the whole world of contracts, where simple words can create these incredibly strong, legally binding obligations. So let's dive in and break down how that actually happens.
So, what is it? What's that magic ingredient? What is the line in the sand that separates a casual, friendly promise from a commitment that could actually land you in a courtroom? That's the big question we're going to unpack right here, right now.
Okay, so at its core, a contract is actually pretty simple. It's not just any old agreement, it's a specific kind of agreement that a court will back up and enforce. It's built on what lawyers call reciprocal promises, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's a two-way street. Each side has to give something to get something. It's a promise with teeth. All right, this is where the rubber really meets the road. You see, the law is super clear that not all agreements are created equal. It draws a very sharp line between a friendly social promise and one that carries some real legal weight. Okay, let's make this super concrete. If a friend promises to take you to dinner and then flakes, well, you can be annoyed, but you can't sue them, right? That's just a social thing. But if someone agrees to sell you their motorcycle for a specific price and then tries to back out, yeah, that is a whole different ballgame. That's a legal promise, and the absolute key difference is the intention to be legally bound by that agreement.
So, how do these legally binding promises even come into existence? Well, it's not as complicated as you might think. It really just boils down to a simple two-step dance. And here's how that dance works. It all starts with an offer. One person, who we call the offeror, lays out their terms. Then comes the acceptance. The other person, the offeree, has to agree to those exact terms. The second that happens, boom, you've got a set of promises, and the foundation for a contract has just been laid.
Okay, but here's the cool thing. An offer doesn't always have to be this one-on-one person-to-person thing. Sure, it can be a specific offer, like you offering to sell your watch to your friend. But it can also be a general offer, an offer made to the whole world, like putting up a poster offering a reward for your lost dog. In that case, anyone who performs the action, who actually finds the dog, is accepting your offer. Now, this next part is a really, really crucial distinction. The difference between a real offer and something called an invitation to offer. A price tag you see in a shop window, that's not actually the store offering to sell you that item. It's an invitation for you to make an offer to buy it at that price. The store then accepts your offer when they ring you up at the register. It's a subtle point for sure, but in the eyes of the law, it's a huge deal. But wait, it's not quite that simple. Just having an offer and an acceptance isn't always enough to seal the deal. For an agreement to be a truly valid, totally bulletproof contract, it has to follow a few essential, non-negotiable rules. You can think of them as the contract's golden rules. And here they are, the 4 pillars that hold up any valid contract. For a deal to actually hold up in court, it needs every single one of these: consideration, capacity, free consent, and a legal purpose. So let's break down exactly what each of these means one by one. All right, first up, consideration. This is just a fancy legal term for something, the classic quid pro quo. A one-sided promise is generally not a contract. Both sides have to exchange something of value. It could be money, sure, but it could also be goods, a service, or even a promise not to do something. It's the price each person pays for the other's promise. And look, this formal definition really nails it. See how it talks about the price of the promise? That's the key. It's that mutual exchange of value, that price, that makes the whole deal something the law will actually enforce. Okay, golden rule number 2, capacity. Basically, the law is smart. It knows that not everyone is in a position to fully get what they're signing up for. So, to protect them, it says certain people lack the legal capacity to form a contract. This usually includes minors and pretty much anyone whose judgment is seriously impaired, whether we're talking about a long-term condition or, just having had way too much to drink. And this is a huge legal concept, especially when it comes to minors. A contract with a minor isn't just something they can get out of later on. It's considered void ab initio, which is just Latin for void from the very beginning. It's not just breakable. It's like it never, ever happened in the first place. This was a really big deal cemented in Indian law by a famous case called Mohori Bibi versus Dharmandas Kose. Okay, our third golden rule is probably the one that makes the most common sense to all of us: free consent. For a contract to be legit, both people have to get into it willingly, with a real understanding of what they're agreeing to. It's simple, right? Any deal you're forced into is no deal at all.
So the most blatant violation of free consent is something called coercion. Yeah, this is your classic gun to the head situation, but it's actually broader than just physical threats. It includes any threat of an illegal act, or even just unlawfully holding someone's property hostage to get them to sign on the dotted line. Consent you get that way, it's not free, and that contract is no.
Now, undue influence. This one's a lot more subtle. This happens when there's a special relationship built on trust between two people, and one of them uses that position of power to unfairly push the other one into a deal. Think about a relationship where one person just naturally has more power or trust, like a doctor and their patient or a parent and child. The law is extra careful in these cases because consent might not be totally free.
And then, of course, you have good old-fashioned fraud. This is just straight-up intentional deception. And it's not just about telling lies. It can also be actively hiding a really important fact, or, and this is an interesting one, making a promise that you have absolutely zero intention of ever keeping. Fraud just poisons the whole deal and makes it totally invalid. Okay, so let's say we've built the perfect contract. We've got our offer, our acceptance, and all four golden rules are in place. But what happens when someone just doesn't do what they promised? That, my friends, is a breach of contract. And yeah, it comes with some pretty serious consequences. But hold on, before I talk about what happens when someone breaks a promise, there's this really fascinating get-out-of-jail-free card called the Doctrine of Frustration. Sometimes, through absolutely no fault of anyone involved, some crazy unforeseen event makes the contract impossible to finish. Maybe the concert hall, burns to the ground, or the government passes a new law making the whole thing illegal. In those cases, the contract can just be wiped out and everyone can walk away. All right, but when a breach does happen and it's someone's fault, the most common solution is damages. And damages, for the most part, means money. But not all damages are created equal. You've got your general damages, that's for the direct, obvious losses. Then you have special damages for those weird, unusual losses that both sides knew might happen from the start. Vindictive damages are pretty rare. They're really meant to punish the person who broke the promise. And finally, nominal damages are just tiny, symbolic amounts to prove a point that a right was violated even if no real money was lost. So there you have it. From a casual "I promise" to a full-blown legal battle. From a simple offer to the serious consequences of breaking a deal. So the next time you're online and you click that little "I agree" button, just remember, you are literally taking part in that two-step dance of offer and acceptance. Now that you know the rules of the game, are you ever going to look at that simple click the same way again?